Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Think About It with your host, LaWanda G. Shazer. Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are going to have another great show tonight. Something that, you're at church, the pastor always say, this is the part where everybody can get involved in. It's the money part. So I hope everybody can get
Right,
involved in this
right,
one.
absolutely.
So again, I just want to start off by thanking everyone for a little bit of your time. You could be anywhere, but you're going to be here with us tonight. And if you catch this later, I still appreciate your time because I think this is a really important word to get out to everyone. When we talk about our finances, sometimes we cringe a little bit, sometimes we get a little bit nervous, but we got to put all of that behind us, and it's time to start moving forward. And so I want to uh, thank my guest, Christopher Graham, for coming on tonight. Young go getter financial advisor, and he's going to really have some great tips for us tonight. And I'm hoping that you get something out of this, that after the show, you reach out to Chris and you start your own financial plan. We always talk about generational wealth. And if you don't get started at some generation, you'll never have that generational wealth. So, with that said, I want to thank again Christopher Graham for being on the show tonight. And Chris, I want you to just tell the audience a little bit about you and why you're here with us tonight.
Thank you, Luwanda. Just a little bit about me. I'm a financial advisor here at Northwestern Mutual. Been doing this I've been actually in the financial world for about 5 to 6 years now. And prior to becoming a financial advisor, I actually worked on the banking side. So I was I went from being a teller all the way up through commercial lending. So I kind of was like, you know what, I really want to be an advisor. Kind of took the plunge. They reached out to me, and it's been a lot of fun ever since. Um, I went to school for finance at WSU. I actually started off at a community college, got my associates in business administration. Then I was like, all right, cool, I really like this. Um, Went to WSU, got a degree in finance, and that's kind of been, how I got here. Uh, it's kind of a long, grueling road to be a financial advisor because I mean, a lot of people, don't have a lot of people when I tell them what I do, they think, oh, you deal with a lot of rich people. Honestly, no, I deal with a lot of, people trying to figure out their finances, to a lot of people that, I have people that be like, I don't know what to do with my money. Truthfully, I have so much of it. I'm really not, you know, have no idea where it's going, where to put it. I just have it. So uh, I've always been good with numbers. And I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So now I'm here.
Awesome, awesome. I love your story. Now you're a transplant to Wichita, correct?
Yes. So my family, that's kind of a story. My parents, um, we immigrated here from Jamaica, and so we initially lived in Texas. Then from Texas, my parents got jobs in Indiana, and then we've kind of been all over the place. I moved out here from Pennsylvania. It was back in 2010, I think. I was originally going to go to school in Pennsylvania. Like I wanted to go to Penn State. Then my mom's like, "Well, your dad just got a job at Coke." Dad moved out here, worked at Coke, and I'm like, "All right, might as well go to WSU." I didn't know any. I only knew of WSU one time. They had like a really good baseball team. This was a couple years ago, and so I'm just like, "All right, cool." And then I happened to be going to school during the time they made their Final Four run. So I mean, it turned out pretty well for everybody. But no, I moved out here from Pennsylvania, like just outside of Philadelphia. So I'm not originally from not originally not I'm not originally from Kansas. No.
Okay. Well, we are glad to have you. And actually, WSU has one of the best business schools in the nation. So I think it worked out. It
Yeah,
probably was
just a
a
little
good
bit.
move.
Just a little
Yes,
bit, right?
just a little bit. Yes, yes. Okay. So we're going to talk finances tonight. And so I myself, retired. I was
Yeah,
on a job long enough that I get a pension, so I'm
of
not
course.
retired. And so I was in that boat, right?
Hmm.
Like, what do I do with my money?
Yeah.
Do I leave it there? Do I pull it out? Do I spend some of it? And so I was in a good position. Like, what to do with my money?
Exactly.
And so I want everybody. And so sometimes people think that like money is no object to me. Money is an object to me because I'm not old enough to get retirement. So I couldn't just take my money. It would have been taxed and I would have gave more of it away, so I had to put my money up. I'm not just out balling and spending my money. I'm still taking care of my money.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
And so I just want everybody else to be in a position that they have to take care of their money. And so we got to get there. We got to get the money, right? We're always chasing the bag. What are we going to do with that bag?
Of course. And to start that all off, there's an advisor here that he's been doing this for about 25, 30 years now. He goes into every conversation saying, do you believe in math and do you want to pay lower taxes? And if it's yes to both of those two questions, you should definitely sit down with a financial advisor. And I think something that a lot of people, I think a lot of people capitalized on and a lot of people dropped the ball on was last year. During COVID, nobody really knew what was going on. I, as an advisor, didn't know what was going on. You probably, as a consumer, had no idea what was going on. So a lot of people were just, you know what? I'm either laid off, lost my job. I have to start a side hustle where I'm making a lot more money and don't know what to do with it. Or I already have money set aside, but I don't know if it's advantageous to even tap into that. So I think the last year and a half, and even moving forward, we're kind of in this weird limbo, or just like, we're in this weird murky water where we're just going. Nobody has any, sense of direction. No one has any, I can't look into a crystal ball and tell you, hey, this is what's going to happen tomorrow with the markets. This is what's going to happen tomorrow with your money. I truly, if you're looking for me to tell you, hey, what to do tomorrow, I could tell you, but you have to more so plan it for the long game. And I think as an advisor, I tell people, last year, everybody got familiar with AMC, GameStop, Robinhood. Everybody and their mothers had, conversations about Bitcoin. And I just, I look at them and I'm like, if only you knew. But let's even talk about that last year. A lot of people, all of a sudden we wake up one day and GameStop, AMC, this is all we hear about in the news, and Robinhood. Long story less long, a lot of people were with the whole GameStop situation, people were upset that, they were going to file for bankruptcy. Then everyone got together and was like, hey, let's, try to push the stock price as high as possible. And a lot of people, made a lot of money off of that. I have friends that they told me in a month they made $15,000.
Right.
And I've never made $15,000 in a month before. I'll be honest, completely never made that type of money in a month.
Right.
And so even off of even Bitcoin and Dogecoin, a lot of people, are starting to get into, cryptocurrencies like that, but they have no idea what that really means. If you came and said, hey, I have, $30,000 worth of Bitcoin, what, I'm going to do something with it. And my first question is, what are you going to do?
Right.
A lot of people, look at me with deer and like a deer in some headlights, and they're just like, well, it's good to have. And I'm like, why is it good to have? That's usually my next question. And they usually say, well, Elon Musk told me to do it. Well, Elon Musk, billionaire, great guy that he is. I mean, you can't really, just because Elon comes out and tweets about it doesn't really mean that you should go do it. It's like my mother. Just because everybody's jumping off a bridge, does that mean you're going to go do it?
Right.
How many times have we had that, conversations growing up as kids?
Because you know what? I could show you my Robinhood account, and I can show you my crypto coin account.
Right.
And I can show you it's all red and it's going down. But I knew that going in. That's not where my money is. That's where I was playing.
I think
Plan.
that plays into people's long-term run for retirement, like you were initially talking. So with retirement, a lot of people my age might come to me and say, hey, Christopher, I want to retire by the time I'm 35. All right, well, we got a lot of work to do if you want to retire by the time you're 35. We have to, look at your 401k, look at your assets, look at your liabilities, things of that nature. And I think people kind of get scared because they think that I'm, the sheriff or the big bad wolf. I'm going to come into your life and tell you, hey, you can't do this. Hey, you can't do this. What our job as advisors, I always tell people I'm a little bit of everything. I'm a therapist, I'm a life coach, I'm your mentor. I am your biggest cheerleader, basically. I want to take what you have and maximize that to the, to the greatest potential that you have. And then if there are any shortcomings, we shore those things up.
Right.
So everyone thinks that, hey, I need to have a whole lot of money to, sit down and talk with an advisor. As I was talking with you, LaWanda, a couple of days ago, one of my best clients, she makes about, I think it actually went up, but she made close to around $37,000 a year. She brought in literally like one of my first meetings I had with her. She brought in like all of these manila folders, laid them out. Everything was highlighted, debts, liabilities, like everything she had. And I'm just like, you have it more together than some doctors who are making, $300,000 a year. And they're just like, well, I just have it here. So I think everyone's perception, like you said earlier, about money is kind of just dependent on how you make it. And that's, what I'm here in a nutshell to do.
Okay. So on that note, I want to take it from step one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking long term and I want to have something in the future, right? But here it is today. I work maybe 2 jobs. I'm trying to put food on the table. I don't feel like I have money to put away. Yeah. So that's step one. So when you get those clients, and I know I've heard it before that I don't have any money to put up. How do we tackle day one, step one?
So day one, step one, it's usually, I tell everybody, every conversation I have, every meeting I have, I can more so say, not a meeting, it's a conversation. So let's, make something up. Let's say you have Susan who comes in, single mom of 1, kid is 7 years old. She works 2 jobs. Collectively, she's making, let's call it, $40,000. She might say, hey, between, daycare, insurance, rent, putting food on the table, I'm not really, I'm barely even making even at the end of the month.
Right.
But let's, then we take a step back and we look at another layer of that. We look at, hey, what does your work provide you? Do you have, 401k? Do you have IRA? What's going on there? So even going back to, let's use my one of my other clients. A lot of people, once you have a 401k, they don't take advantage of the fact that, a 401k is basically free money. Your employer is saying, hey, if you take X from your paycheck and put it over here, we will sometimes match what you're giving us.
Right.
Match what you're giving us. So I see a thing where people, quote unquote, overfund their 401k. So say, for example, their company gets a 3% match. They're putting in 8%. I usually ask them, hey, why are you, they're usually younger. And I say, you're 25, you're putting in 8%, your match is at 3%. Why is that? And they usually don't have a reason. Sometimes they do have a reason. Sometimes they say, most of the times it's like, hey, I want to maximize my, input now so I can potentially, retire early. Then I say to myself, all right, let's look at that 5% that you're overfunding. You have credit card debt, you have student loan debt, and then you have an additional mortgage. You want to pay those down faster, but you have an additional 5% coming out of what you make going to your, 401k, your IRA account, et cetera, et cetera. Why don't we, hey, let's knock this back for, 3 years, let's pay some of this down as quickly as possible. Then you're having more dollars come into your paycheck every 2 weeks or however you get paid. And then, that's, a place where people say, hey, I don't have additional money. But then we look at what you're allocating to your retirement and say, hey, you're completely doing this the wrong way, because a lot of people that I work with, that I'm trying to work with, haven't been educated on how to properly do this. And so each conversation starts off like that.
All right. So job match is important. So if you have a job and it's matching, it's giving you something, then you're saying, take a look at your outputs, your current outputs, and then make sure, like you said, you're not overfunding, because it wouldn't make sense to pay down some of those higher percentage credit cards, get that stuff knocked out, and then have put more money into your 401 or whatever.
And even speaking of even like people that have credit card debt, we in the banking world we have this thing called kiting. A lot of credit card companies will say, hey, you come open a credit card with us, we give you 12 months no interest. Okay, so in that 12 months you're basically getting no interest on your balance. Then I always recommend people do your balance transfer. That balance transfer is probably sometimes 3 or 4% of what your balance is to roll over to the next credit card. And now you have 12 to 14 months of payments where you're getting no interest on that. And so that's, you keep. Now, I'm not saying every 12 to 14 months go open a new credit card account. I'm just saying take advantage of those 12 to 14 months, pay that down as quickly as possible, take advantage of that no interest payment period, and then that's extra money that's in your pockets at the end of the day.
Right. And because, I've been there before. I've been there where you transfer everything. You got this credit card that's zero balance, and you're like, hey, I got another credit card. No, you don't. No, you don't.
No, you do not. I promise.
Old school, they say put it in the freezer and just freeze it.
Actually, that's one an advisor here. He has recommended to people, hey, like take this, put it in a bucket, go put it in a deep freezer. If you really need it, I guarantee you by the time that you even start chipping away at, you think to yourself, you know what, I really don't need this.
Right. Okay. So we got a comment so far. And it said, so we talked about, we're still step one, day one. So we talked about looking at what your company is matching. So what if you're a sole proprietor? You start your own business?
That's a good question.
And
that is a really good question. So there's different avenues for people that own their own businesses. And so depending on if you're just strictly in business for yourself, or you have, how do I want to say this? Let's just say you own a bagel shop, and that bagel shop, you've had that bagel shop for 4 to 5 years now. So there's different small business, I can never say this word right, contributory programs where you can set up your own 401k for yourself and your employees. What I always recommend to people that own their own type of business, a lot of people, I'm dealing with actually my neighbor, he wants to start his own plumbing company. And he started talking one day and he told me, I want to start my own plumbing company here in Wichita. What do I need to do? I told him, well, first you have to do everything you have to insulate yourself first. So you always start off with, I always tell people, you have your, 3 to 6 months of a cushion where, 3 to 6 months of expenses for yourself or your business. You have to have your disability/liability insurance that you have. And then depending on how you're in business and how it's structured, you might need to have a buy-sell agreement or like a golden handcuff kind of contract. So, but going back to the 401k, like having it for yourself, a lot of brokerage firms will just say, hey, if you come in and be like, hey, I need to set up some form of brokerage account for myself where I'm contributing to a 401k account or an IRA account or a traditional versus Roth. That's a whole nother conversation that I could go on hours about. But individual business owners, you do have the option to set up something for yourself. It's just depending on how you're structured. If you're a DBA business or a LLC or a sole prop, it just depending on what your needs are and what your income is and what your how big your weaknesses, things of that nature. So there's a lot of avenues for that.
Okay, so in particular, you own a salon with, and you are the owner and the only employee. So you don't have to worry about your other staff. So I'm looking at you own a salon with no booth renters. Just you. So is there like a minimum that people have to come to start with?
No, it's one of these things where it's all scalable. Everything is scalable to what you can afford for yourself. So, for example, like let's use your example. Let's say Sarah, who is a beautician who has her own salon. It's just her and herself. She would need, let's say, for example, she's making close to $5,000 a month, right? But she's making, doing pretty good for herself. So she's making around 60,000. Let's call it $60,000 a year.
Okay.
One of the conversations we always talk about, hey, setting up everything like that. What would happen if you're home, you fall and you break your hand? And a lot of beauticians, barbers, things of that nature. Your doctor says, hey, you can't work for the next, year and a half. All your metacarpals are messed up. You have to, sit out. I would say close to maybe 70% of people have no idea what they're going to do.
Right.
Because my mom always tells me, Christopher, you're not Superman. You don't have an S on your chest. We all think we're, indestructible at some point until something happens to us. And so we look at those little things as well. So I always tell people, hey, once we sit down, everybody wants to, get to the shiny object, but we have to do the grunt work first before we get to the shiny object. We have to, see what your cash flows are. What's your threshold? How much can you live off per month? And then we build a plan based off of that to say, like, hey, if you're out for 12 months, what is the minimum that you can live off of? And what would you want to see coming in each month to keep your lifestyle the same? If you like, going out to the movies every weekend, taking trips every 2 weeks, what is the lifestyle that you want to maintain and keep so we can build a plan according to you?
Right. Okay. So getting started, I'm not bringing in 50, 60 a year. Maybe I'm bringing in 40 a year, but I still need to find a way. And so, so you're emphasizing, I don't have to come with you. I don't have to bring like $10,000 with me to get started.
No. And I think most brokerage accounts, depending on I don't quote me on this, but I know the ones what we have run, you have a monthly, draft, or you can come with a chunk. And I think the chunk is like 1,000. I think most of them start off at 1,000. That's like the bare minimum, but it's not, bringing in, there's some guys that are like, more tenured advisors. There's minimums that they have, but for the base floor, everyday regular Joe Schmo, it's nothing crazy. No.
Okay. And once you set up a plan, so maybe right now I'm thinking I can contribute, I'll say $100 a month. Right.
Yes.
And then maybe I need to drop it down to $80. Is that doable?
It's one of those things. I tell people, I'm just a phone call away. You call me, then I call the people that run everything, because like I said, it's with what we do here, it's all, since I'm a younger advisor, reaching out to someone and saying, like, hey, I have a client that was doing $100 a month. Now they can only do 80. What can we do to maximize that deficit of 20? how can we, allocate certain dollars to go to different mutual funds, go to different bonds? How does that work? And we have teams of people here to do that.
Okay. So is an IRA better than a 401k as far as taxes?
When you mean taxes, do you mean as taxing it, up front, or,
Let's hit it both. So right now on the front side.
So I always tell people there's two types of IRAs that you have: traditional and Roth. 99.9% of the time, I'm going to push my clients towards the Roth option because those are after-tax dollars. After-tax dollars are basically your best dollars because they haven't been taxed. So, but you've already paid money on the taxes up front. So when you take it out doing your RMDs, 20, 30 years from now, you don't have to pay taxes on that money at all.
Okay.
So versus a 401k, your 401k, I always tell people those are, you want to make sure those are like your aggressive dollars. So your 401k is done usually through your employer. And like we were saying earlier, you usually have a match of some sort, whether it be, I've seen anywhere from 3 all the way up to 8%. So with 401k money, there's a certain age that you can take it at. I think it's at like 70 now. If you take any 401k money before that, you're going to get taxed on it. I currently have one of my clients, she had a mistake on her taxes where once she had left her job and she took her 401k money out, but didn't claim it on her taxes. Ooh. And so if you don't claim that on your taxes,
not good.
I'll tell you something. The IRS knows where all the money is. Like the IRS knows about, the $50 that's probably in my dash box right now out in the car. So once you don't claim that specific money, because that's basically taxable income. If you don't claim that and then don't pay the taxes on that, next April when you file your taxes, you're going to get a letter and be like, hey, that money that you took out, we kind of need our cut.
We need our cut, right? So exactly. So when I put my money, I rolled it over so that it wasn't taxed. But like you said, the part that I took out, of course, it was taxed. Yeah.
And so and I saw it was Pamela who said that to answer your question, they both have their pros and their cons. It just depends on what you're contributing to your 401k versus your IRA. But notice that with your IRA, there's a specific amount that you can contribute each year. So once you max that out, you can't just keep, funding an IRA, funding it, because, there's just because of tax laws, IRS laws, I didn't make them. They say, hey, you can only put so much into your IRA account per year. And depending on if you didn't do it for the next year, there's like catch up amounts. So it honestly, it has its pros and cons.
Right. So, but do you have to, is a 401k, is that only through a company, or can, again, the owner of the salon, can they have a 401k?
You can have a Roth you can create a 401k. You can create a Roth 401k for yourself. Your regular 401ks, like, so for example, you work at Spirit. Spirit's going to provide you I've worked with enough clients in Spirit. I kind of know what's inside their 401k. So what I mean inside of it, like what funds are being funded and so on and so forth. But you're going to have your traditional company IRA, which is usually run through either, Fidelity Investments, Vanguard, what's another brokerage, like T. Rowe Price, just depending on whomever the company uses. And so you can you can have a regular 401k, you can have a IRA 401k, you can have a SEP, which is like a 401k, but that is for smaller businesses, so like people that own their own businesses. So honestly is up to the client and what they want and think is better for themselves.
So everyone really would need to sit down, because everyone's portfolio is their portfolio.
Yes. Right? everyone is different. So
Right.
not every case is the same.
Right. Okay. So is anyone too young or is anyone too old to invest in their future?
I tell people now you should start doing it yesterday. And what
Okay.
I mean by that is money today is worth more than it will be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I see what pains me and hurts me the most. I'm 28 right now, and when I meet with people who are roughly my age, they'll say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I'll start that when I have a family, or I'll start that when I get married." Well, okay, so you say all of that. You get your house, you get the job you want, you get the car, you get everything. By the time you get down that road, you're looking back at yourself and it's like, "Well, I don't have any money to do this." Well, if you start now, incorporate, just the small basic things. By the
Mm-hmm.
time you get ready to have a family, you have everything in place.
You've already
And
started.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I always tell people, say, by the time you have that family, say something happens to you. Say you pass away. Now it's just your wife and your kids, and you've gone from a two-income household to a one-income household.
Mm-hmm.
That quality of life, I guarantee you do not want to change your quality of life.
Right.
I talk with guys that like to golf every single weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them all the time, you don't want to change your quality of life, do you? They usually say no.
No.
Well, if something happens, and I'm saying if something happens, because it usually does happen, your quality of life will change. And is that something you can live with? And they usually say, well, no. And then we go from there. But
Mm-hmm.
no, you're not too old, you're not too young to start. I have started plans for people's children who are literally 40 days old.
Okay. So what can you tell me how old is your oldest client or the oldest client that just started, not that's been doing it?
One of my oldest clients that just started is, how old is she? I have her have her notes right here in my iPad.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Because I want people that are watching to understand that their future is always in their grasp. They have control over their future. And so I want people to understand that they can always start.
37. She is 37 years old, two children.
That's your
And
oldest client. So what about
well, my oldest client that just started is 37. One of my
oh, okay.
older clients is 64, just turned 64.
Okay. All right. So so what if somebody is watching now that's 65 and they're like, oh, I missed the boat. Have they missed the boat?
No, you haven't, because I'll tell you, and that's the thing. I love working with older clients because they have an idea. How do I want to say this? They've been around long enough to know that, hey, like, there's somebody that probably doesn't know as much as I do. So, and especially with older clients, they're either heading towards retirement, in retirement, or they're freaking out saying, hey, like, I might run out of money in retirement. And
Mm-hmm.
so all three of those things can be fixed. And
Mm-hmm.
so let's say, for example, I talk about this with my mom, and I love my mom all the time. I love my mom. My mom is my favorite person. Matter of fact, once I leave here, I have to call my mom because she wanted me to talk about something I didn't do like 2 weeks ago. So I tell my mom all the time, hey, it's me and my older brother. My older brother, he just started up law school, and I told my mom's 50, just turned 56. I
Okay.
told her, hey, if anything was to happen to you, you know, if you were to, knock on wood, have a stroke, what would you want me and my brother to do?
Mm-hmm.
And she sat down. She was like, I never really thought of that. And so I sat down and showed her, like, hey, like, I know you probably don't want, me and my little brother, having to like have a burden that we have to take care of you. What does your long-term care look like? Because
Okay.
we're all going to get to 70. We're all going to get to 80. And I mean, we all like, I mean, if y'all got kids, if you ask your kids, hey, do you want to take care of me when, I'm 85? I
Right.
want to take care of my mom, but with everything that I want to do, I might not have the time to. So looking at your long-term care options, looking at, hey, if I'm at, if I retire at 58 and the next year I'm looking at like, hey, do I have enough money to make it to 80? Hey, we might want to look at some, variable, fixed income annuities to make sure that, hey, once I get to 79, I wake up on my 80th birthday, I know I have X still coming in, complemented with my 401k, complemented with, my pension, complemented with my Social Security, if it's still there. That's a whole nother conversation. But
right.
Older clients, they might think that, oh, hey, I've missed the boat on this. And I'm like, no, you are, especially now at Northwestern Mutual, we're positioned to we're halfway through the year looking at the next year. We're just projected to even grow even more. And so I tell people all the time, it's never too late to start.
Awesome. And one of the things we talked about was once you get into this mindset, this is not a game that you can just quit, right?
It's like a roller coaster. Once you get on the roller coaster, you can't look at the dude back there and be like, hey, you gotta go.
Right. Yeah. Right. So you talked about last year and everything was like, and I had shared with you my own personal story that I lost like $25,000 in like a quarter. And I was 3 months. And so I was calling my guy up. I'm like, you know what? I want all my money out. Just pull it out. LaWanda, you don't want to do that. You're going to get taxed. I don't care. Pull my money out. He said, LaWanda, just calm down. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to think about it. Because I read that, with COVID last year, you could pull money out and they weren't going to tax you as hard. But
I'll let you finish on your point. I just found out today, if you had taken one of your RMDs from your IRA accounts, you can actually put that money back. You have 3 years to put that money back in, and there won't be any penalty. So that's another thing. But continue with what you were saying.
Yeah. So I thought about it, and I said, okay, I'm not going to pull it out, because I was freaking out, because I was like, I just retired. And I'm like, my money's supposed to be there when I get like for real retired. And but I said, okay, I know the market. I know what happens. I know what it does.
It's a bounce back. Yeah, it's one of those things. I tell people, there's a saying like, what goes up must come down, but with the stock market, what goes down must go back up.
Right. And it did.
Yeah, it did.
And I'm to the good now. I'm like, I'm riding that wave again.
Of course.
But I almost freaked out and pulled my money, and that would have been a mistake.
Yes. And, I try to educate, like one of the reasons I kind of got into banking and like the financial services industry, like I want to, of course, how do I want to say this? When I met with the directors here and I was going through the process, I told them like, hey, like I'm the only person that looks the way I look here. I've come across I know there's Cedric Powell down in Florida. He's a really great advisor. And then there's Timothy Radden, who's another really great advisor out in Arizona. In our network office, which spans across 4 states, there's maybe 2 other Black advisors, and they're about my age. And I think they're out in Springfield, Missouri. And so when I try to I love sitting down with Black clients to let them know, like, hey, like, this is a long play. This is not like, this isn't one of those,
this isn't GameStop.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a very, candid, very, very candid. And my mom's always just like, Christopher, you're the one child that has no filter. I have the most candid of conversations, and I always try to tell people. I had a candid conversation with a lady and her 5 children, and I said, hey, there's going to come a time your mother's going to pass away. What the planning we're going to do right now, we're going to leave all 5 of you better off than you'd ever been in your whole life. And so when I talk to my minority clients, whether they be Mexican, Black, Asian, anything, I tell them like, hey, like I don't just do this because hey, it's a lucrative career, the money's great. I want to see. I actually ran into a managing director of Cisco Informations. He's from Nigeria. He was off of Harry and he was in a Bentley parked. And I went up to him. I'm like, hey, man, I love seeing Black people in really nice cars. And I
Right.
gave him my card and he's going to call me tomorrow. But I want to be able to create a different eco environment and ecosystem where, Black people, we all have money. You can be a teacher, and, go on vacation, 2, 3 times a year. You can be a janitor. You can be, an engineer, anything. So I didn't just do this just for myself. I did this for just the representation in the financial planning atmosphere, because there's not a lot of Black financial advisors out there. I think altogether in Northwestern Mutual across America, there's maybe 1,100 of us, and we're a company of maybe 6,200 advisors. So, I'm trying to do this, just for the representation and to help people.
Right. And I'm glad you said that, because there's this I don't know if there's a stigma or there's this mindset that African Americans can't put up money. African Americans can't save or whatever. And I hear it all the time that just spending power is billions of dollars in African American community. So there is absolutely money in the African American community. It's just like you said, it's just about making decisions.
And I think the thing that, kind of made me realize, I didn't realize this until I was like maybe 20. My parents immigrated. Like I said, my family, we're all from Jamaica. We came here. My parents struggled. I saw them. I didn't really realize it until I got older to understand, like growing up, we were like poor, like we were broke. But as I got older and I saw my parents, they taught me how to save, how to, I'll be honest with you, I'm 28. I love looking for coupons. So I'm
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, they taught me how to, save my dollars. And when I realized, my dad he put all 4 of his kids through college, was able to buy a house for his grandma, not a house for my grandma, a vacation house. And then my mom was able to, pay for all of her degrees and everything. And my mom's, almost retired. My dad's almost retired, and the house that we grow up in is already paid off. And my dad's 56 and my mom's 54. Like, I realized it can be done.
It can be.
It can be done as long as you have, I try to, if I see little kids, like I try to go up to them and talk to them and be like, hey, stay in school, do this. You can be anything. Growing up, I didn't know, when I thought of financial advisor, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think about the dudes in the Brooks Brothers catalogs or the Ralph Lauren,
right.
There wasn't anybody that looked like me. And then when I realized, oh, hey, I can be a financial advisor. Okay, cool. Like, I can do this.
Right. And you know what? And we can change mindsets. We can do it. We just have to put the word out and start talking to people. That's why I was just so happy to have you on the show tonight, because again, I wanted to do Summer of Empowerment. And when you can self-empower yourself, that's where the real power is. And we all know where the money is, yes. That's where the power is, right? Exactly. And when you have your own money, that's your own power.
And one thing, like being that I'm not originally from Wichita, like I've started over the last couple of years trying to venture out and see what else is out there. Like, what else, what is Kansas about? Because when I tell my buddies that live in Miami, Chicago, LA, and I'm like, yeah, they've been one of my buddies in Miami has been convincing me to try to move there for the last 3 years now.
Right.
And he's just you should, what, we're all down here in Miami. You come down here, work, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, rent here is fairly cheap.
Right.
I like the, how everything,
yes,
cost of living is yes. good. But I try to reach out to, I'll stop somebody in the middle of Dillon's and just talk to them, a Black person, stop them like, hey, how are you? What are you doing? What are you up to? I'm Christopher, such and such and such and such. And then I recently started reaching out to all Black businesses in Wichita, calling them, just getting people to sit down and talk and just have that conversation.
Right.
And, a bunch of people, they might say, oh, hey, I do it on my own. I'm fine. But, I always try to, something I always, I spit out statistics to them. And I'm like, oh, well, a lot of people, before they sit down with us, we look at their planning and they're projected to make, $1 million in retirement. What happens if I told you if you could potentially have $3 million in retirement?
Right.
Then they start to be like, okay,
right.
Let me hear what you got to say.
Right. And, one of the examples that we had talked about was that, some people say, well, I'm just going to invest in, say, like a duplex, live in one, rent one out. And that's a great plan if you have the seed money to buy the duplex.
Exactly.
And so if you don't already have that money, you can't let that stop you from preparing for your future. And so that's why you got to put your money somewhere.
And to give you an idea about that, one of my clients right now, I just sent his proposal out yesterday. So I'm just waiting on him to sign it. He wants to buy real estate. So with everything, I'm actually, if I could, let's see here. I told him I would use him as an example. So give me.
Uh-oh. Oh, did we lose Christopher? Hopefully he's coming back. I think he wants to pull up his screen. But I see a message out there that says that sometimes we're scared to take that plunge, and we are. Like I said, when I saw my money and I lost it immediately, like in 3 months, I lost $25,000. It was scary.
Yeah.
But I stayed the course because I know what my future plan is. And I also rolled my money over because I said, well, maybe something happens to me. I could have left my money in where it was at and drew a bigger check per month, right?
Yes.
But I said, but what if something happens to me? Because generational wealth is in the back of my mind always. And so if I would have left my money in Capers, and when I passed away, my kids would have got $500 to bury me. And that's it. My money's gone. All the money I worked for. So I rolled it over. And so that in case something does happen to me, my money goes to my kids. And so again, financial planning, what's best for the future. And for me, I have a goal to leave something to my children. I don't care how old they are. I don't care if they're 50 when the good Lord call me back. I want to leave something to my kids because if we don't start on that generational wealth, we got to start with the generation to have generational wealth.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I want to share my screen real quick just to show you just a sample of like things that I work on just for different clients depending on what their needs are.
Okay.
I'm waiting for this illustration to pop up. So give me 1 second.
Right. And I was just talking about in our messages, somebody was saying that it's scary to take that plunge. And you and I talked about it's going to be even scarier when you wake up one day. You can't go to work. Your body is like, I'm done, but you have no money in the bank. You have no savings. You have no nest egg. And so you have to, let me see. Will you want me to add this other one?
Yes, I was going to.
Okay. There we go.
I don't know if we can see this. Can you see that?
It's there.
Okay. So this is one of my clients that we're working on right now. And we're doing kind of like we've done his brokerage accounts. We've done his disability and we've done his, his life insurance, but he has an additional, decent amount of disposable income that we're going to play around with for, the next, 10 to 15 years. Well, not play around with, but in a sense, play with or just plan with. So what he wants to do, he told me by the time he's 55, he wants to have close to, $250,000. So if you can see this highlighted right here, what we have. So at the age of 55, and, this is just one of the policies he has. He's going to get his beneficiary or his estate's going to get just, around $1 million. But inside of his policy, he's going to have close to, $334,000, which is all, growing money. It doesn't go backwards and it's growing at 4 to 5% each year. He's going to take that money and buy houses with it. He wants to move down to, I think he said, Naples and, buy starter properties and then build those, sell them, build, sell. And so things of that nature. And he is, I think, 38. And so it, like it says, it's never too late to start your planning, and it's never too late to, get, your neck in the game.
Right, right. And so I've invited you out. So again, I want to get information out. That's the whole point. Summer of Empowerment. We got to start doing things for ourselves and quit looking at why are they doing these things but we aren't, right? There's no excuse anymore because knowledge is power. And so I've invited you out, and I hope you can come to an event that I'm one of the sponsors on this Saturday in the park at McAdams. We'll be there from 6 to 9 p.m. And we're going to have informational booths. And I hope that you can join us and help putting the word out there that we can do this, guys. We can start preparing for our future. You don't have to be rich. And to get started.
LaWanda, there's something that hurt me really bad. Just, back in February, I was talking with, a prospect, and, he was just like, you know what, I make decent enough money. I can pay for everything. I don't really need any form of planning, and I can do it all through my work. I don't really do, social media too much. I log on like it was back in May. He had started a GoFundMe because I think his mother had gotten cancer. And I had talked with his mother before, and he is like, yeah, my mom doesn't need it. His mom was in, the meeting with us, reached back out to him. And it really hurt me because if he had just done his planning, all the expenses for his mother would have been taken care of.
Right. And that's the thing we have to, I have a license to sell insurance, life insurance. And I talk to so many different people that say, I got it through my job. And I'm like, but what if your job lets you go?
And it's more expensive because I know, like, depending on the company, I usually know who the broker is. What I mean, broker, not the person, but the company that sells life insurance through it. It's usually more expensive if you go through your employer, because your employer is only going to give you, final expenses. They're not going to they're going to give you enough to cover your funeral, probably like a certain amount of bills. But if you go through, not to say, the competition's name, like MetLife, New York Life, Mass Mutual, like those other brokerage firms are going to be able to give you more than what, your employer will give you at a and I mean, I'm talking like pennies. I'm talking you pay 10 cents for $1 of coverage.
Right. And, sometimes we say, well, it's just easier. I'll pay the extra through my job than to do the homework and get your own plan.
But if you do the extra through your job, you're wasting, in a sense. I'm not saying you're wasting, but those dollars that you're allocating can be allocated to something else.
Right. Okay. And so we are wrapping up on an hour, and I want to be mindful of your time and everyone else's time.
I could talk about this stuff all day, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm going to have you back, and because I really want you to use your diagram, and so you can kind of show people again, like what numbers can look like, what you can actually, what your future can look like if you prepare now. And I appreciate the fact that you said you are never too young or too old to invest in yourself, right? It seems scary, but it's absolutely doable.
It is.
And you don't have to come with a great big fat pocket to get started, right? The end game is to have that fat pocket, right?
That's the end game. Now, don't get me wrong. I love talking with one of my clients. She works for Apple. She makes more money than I have ever. I never knew people could make that amount of money just doing stuff. It blew me away. But I mean, it really is a conversation. And I think what scares people is, I mean, there are some brokerage firms that you go to and they're going to say, all right, this is going to cost you $100. I've been talking with one person and I just convinced him to be a client since January. I've not charged him a single dime. And there's literally no cost for you to call me and like, hey, let's schedule, sit down, talk, and go from there.
Right. So everybody, if you're watching this show live, or if you're going to watch the broadcast later, I want you to get with Christopher. I want you to have that conversation. That first conversation is free. You know how the lawyer said your first consultation is free.
But I'll tell you something. If you tell me that, hey, I got 15 million under the mattress, hey, we're gonna
make it work.
I got you. I got you.
Right. So we're not saying he doesn't want the big clients. He's saying he just wants the clients. That's what we're saying. Everybody,
because that client is that in this business, we always say that client will take you to the next one.
Right.
Because we all know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody.
Right. And I am proud to say it. I have everybody watching my show of all races, color, ages, everything. But I am proud to say that I have a Black financial advisor on my show. Sometimes it may take, somebody to look like you to make you feel comfortable with your money, because, money is a commodity that we cherish that,
And I've had clients, one of my closest friends, he's Hispanic, and he told me he sat down with an advisor a couple of years ago, and he said, everything I do, I kind of do with somebody else is a little bit more tenured than me. So like, I'm not, so I can learn and he can, better assist me. He told me he felt more comfortable knowing that I was in the room because he understood me. I understood him as a minority and where he's coming from and how hard his parents had to work, how hard he has to work, and what his money means for him.
Right. Okay. So hopefully I'll see you this Saturday, but even if not, we're going to keep pushing the word out. Money matters. Your money matters.
It does.
So we got to start thinking about the future. Real quick, you gave an example of how we can, like, I don't have the money, but how you can look at your expenses, and maybe people, you can start tracking. What do you do? Track your expenses for a month. I don't know.
It might be even something small. I've worked in banking, so look at your car loans. I always tell people, if there's people watching this that work in banking, credit life disability on a car loan is the biggest waste of money that you will have. Because if you have some form of life insurance, or you pass away and something happens to that car, the bank is going to get their money. They're going to either write that asset off, write your car off, and then sell it and then recoup what they can and then write off the rest that they don't have. So why pay insurance on insurance that you already have? You already have insurance on your car. Why do you need you have full coverage insurance on your car, right? Which is authorized by the bank. So why do you need another whole other policy on your loan, because your insurance is already on the car? And then people are like, wait, I didn't know that.
Right. Okay. You use that example and of that Starbucks coffee. Maybe you can get Quick Trip coffee instead of Starbucks coffee.
Hey man, it keeps you up just as long. Might not taste as good, but it keeps it does the same thing.
Right. All right. Well, Christopher, I want to thank you again for coming on. I got your information up, but just tell them where they can reach you at.
You can actually, I have cards somewhere around here. Actually, no, I don't. But my cell phone number is 610-333-5448. Or you can reach me at my work email, which is going to be Christopher, CHRISTOPHER.Graham@nm.com. And then I might have my actual desk number somewhere around here. I'm never at my desk. I'm usually out meeting with people, but my phone number gets forwarded to my my desk phone. So give me 1 second. If you want to call me, if you want to keep calling me and calling me and calling me, I'll get your phone number. I'll get the phone call because it'll get forwarded to me. But for those of you who want to call me on my actual desk phone number, my desk phone number is 316-265-8139. But it's just easier just to
hit you up on your cell?
If you call me, if you don't get me, just text me. So those of you that want to like talk to me like as soon as possible, just text me, because I'm actually, after this, I'm going to go meet a client right now. I have to at like 7:30. I'm going to go meet a client.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, thank you again for tuning in, and we will see more of you in person. I would like to be in the studio with you, but I will have you back on the show again, because one show is not enough to change the mindset, to change what we're doing. And so I will see you Saturday.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so any parting words?
How do I want to say this? It's never too late, guys. And I tell people all the time, as an advisor, I'm still learning. I have my own personal struggles, and I always reach out to people for help. So don't think that, hey, like once you sit down with an advisor, whether it be me, I'd love for you to sit down with me, but whether whomever you sit down with and you're just like, well, this person's going to judge me because of, how much I make or because of how much I don't make. No, I'm really just here to help you. I'm really here to not only help you, but help those who are around you, because, yourself is the greatest investment that you have. And if you take the time to invest in yourself, then you will see how that affects your life tenfold. I promise you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on my show, and we will talk in the future.
Yes, ma'am. Right. Thank you. I love this. I could do this all day. Really quick.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I just want to thank everybody for coming on the show tonight. This has been awesome. I'm calling it Summer of Empowerment. I'm going to have a real estate agent on here next. We're going to talk about continuing this generational wealth. And, I can give you a history lesson. We'll do that later. But home ownership is a path to generational wealth. So ownership, protecting your money, putting it up for the future is how that generational wealth is accumulated. So again, I want to thank you all for coming out and watching my show. I want you to like it. I want you to share it. I'm on YouTube. Y'all want to switch over to YouTube? Go over to YouTube, please, and subscribe. I'm broadcasting on both social media platforms, but it's hard to get y'all to go over to YouTube. So go over to YouTube as well and subscribe and like and share, and let's keep Think About It going, because this is the show that I guarantee you that if you watch, I'm going to give you something to think about. Bye.